Funding and support for this program provided by Travel and Transport and the University of Nebraska at Omaha.
The Omaha Sister City Association is celebrating its 50th anniversary. This is a tremendous milestone in Omaha's reach to the rest of the world. The first city with which Omaha became partnered with Shizuoka in Japan. And we're very fortunate today to have two wonderful ladies, two great friends of mine, who were a part of the very initial actions that brought Shizuoka and Omaha together as sister cities many years ago. And also, we're very fortunate that their husbands were very instrumental in the beginning of these relations as well. So we're going to talk to them and ask them to help us to understand what a wonderful situation we have today because of the contributions made by your husbands and yourselves. And I'm going to start with you, Kimi Takechi, who is the wife of Kaz Takechi. Kimi and Kaz together were very active in Omaha with their own shop downtown, jewelry, watch repair, etc. And their son Richard, also a member of that particular enterprise. They were amongst those who helped us to get the sense that this is what we need to do to make Omaha more of an international city. So, Kimi, nice to have you here. And I'd like to just start, and then I'm going to come to you, Millie, after we have had a chance to discuss this with Kimi here. Could you tell me a little bit about how your husband, Kazuo, and your son, Richard, first became interested in espousing this idea of Omaha with a city in Japan?
Well, Kaz had taken Richard to Japan when he was 16 years old, and when he came back, he was so enthused with things Japanese because he was born in America and it was his first time to become acquainted with Japan, and he thought that Omaha would be an ideal city to be a sister city to Kochi, Japan, which was Kaz's home city. However, after they investigated, they found that Kochi already had a sister relationship with Fresno, so they were looking around for another city. At about the same time, there was a Dr. Tajima, a dentist from Shizuoka, who had come to the States for a conference. And before he left, the city fathers in Shizuoka asked him to go to Omaha and check us out because they heard that Omaha was looking for a sister city relationship. And when he got here, I remember we met at the Fontenelle Hotel, and he became so excited because he heard that we were already making plans to become their sister city. And he called on the phone to Shizuoka and said, "What should I do?" And they said, "Well, proceed to, you have our okay to do whatever is necessary to make the connection." And that was actually the start as far as I know, except that I heard that, like Tom said, that the U.S. was looking for a sister city relationship to ease the tension that was built up after the war, to promote better relationships. And
they also felt that Omaha, located in an agriculturally centered place, would have something in common with Shizuoka, which also was a primary agricultural area, and strawberries and tea and other such things of this nature.
Yes.
So we have a picture with a number of Omaha leaders, and amongst those are individuals that were very active, and I think it would be important to mention people like Mayor Sorensen and Max Miller and Art Howe, and a number of others, Alden Alst, who were so instrumental in working with your husband and your son
Yes.
to make this relationship develop.
And Keith Carter at that time, I believe, was head of Better Business Bureau or
Keith
Chamber
Carter,
of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce,
Chamber
right?
of Commerce, and he was very active in pushing for the relationship.
Well, we were very fortunate to have that kind of leadership and interest in
Yes.
Omaha. One of those leaders was Mal Hansen, who was Millie's husband, and Mal is kind of famous in Omaha of having been a colleague of Johnny Carson at Channel 6 before he got into the travel business. But as president of Travel and Transport, he was generally the individual who helped to organize the trips of Omahans to Shizuoka. And oftentimes, Millie, you were with your husband Mal, co-leaders of these trips. I worked with you and Mal on a number of those ourselves when I was president of the Sister City Association and in conjunction with University of Nebraska at Omaha Travel. So this was another very important connection. And so tell us a little bit about how you and Mal got associated with the Sister City Association and how we progressed in that fashion.
Well, I think he was asked to join the group interested in a Sister City Association. And if he joins anything, he always always accepts any job given to him. And I think one of them was organizing a group of people to go to Shizuoka. However, his first trip was not with a group. He went to Shizuoka with Al Frisbee from the Omaha World Herald, and they were to get information and bring it back to Omaha in order to get people interested in going there.
Well, so that was a great introduction. So I know Mal made certain forays like that for other places as well. So
always went first.
Yeah, right. Well, that's a great thing. Kimmy, I know that your husband Kaz received a number of awards, one from the Emperor of Japan, relating to his activities in promoting the relationship between the United States and Japan, and Omaha in particular. Could you mention to us something about those activities?
Kaz was actually invited to come to Japan to receive the medal. Right. So the consul general from Kansas City brought it up to him, and they presented it at the Rotary meeting, and then again they made the kind of a, what do you call it, at the dinner.
Some people had tuxedos and stuff on that, right?
There was one gentleman that who entertained so many people from Omaha, a Dr. Oishi, who used to be a maritime or a naval doctor, and he had a whole set of armor. And he would, whenever we'd send people over to visit his house, he would always dress them in their armor. I think there's one picture of Kaz in their armor. Oh. And then whenever we hear that when they think that someone is going to Japan, they would come visit us, and ask for pointers or something.
Another thing that was very important and instrumental in the whole development of this relationship was the connections that were made through Rotary in both of these cities. Rotary very highly regarded in Japan as it was in the U.S., and so we would always be invited to a Rotary meeting in Shizuoka and vice versa when people came here, and I think that was a major connection. And I think also in Japan, individuals like Mayor Ogino, he was at the very beginning, he was mayor for all the early years. Mr. Makino, Yutaka Makino, he was very, very instrumental. And of course, Mr. Kawai, who was the kind of financial support behind all these. These three people in Japan were very, very instrumental as well. So maybe one of you might have some remembrances of their contribution.
Well, I remember Mr. Kawai's father had come over too.
Wow. And now we've had Mr. Kawai's son, who has succeeded him, and so What a succession.
Yeah, and we had so much help. When it first started, it was new to Omaha, and so Richard was in the junior chamber in the JCs, and so Kaz had him run around to different companies to get new members, you know, the presidents of the company. So he went around to try to get some of the leading people in Omaha to become members, and they were such good support.
Well, again, it goes back to that whole idea that these things would not have occurred, would not have been successful without this very active team of citizens who were very, very civic oriented, and again, your husbands were certainly leaders in this.
One thing that he thought was important after the city association was established was that getting the students here, and they would be the future leaders, and if they had a good relationship with the U.S., why they would make the connection with the business people and the politicians, and would help to bring about a good relationship, not only commercially but socially. And at one time, the city fathers, we had several students coming, as you know. At one time, the city fathers over there thought that they would build a dormitory for the students. And Kaz found out about that idea through Mr. Makino, who was very instrumental as a go-between. And he said very quietly that if you would tell those people that if they did build a dormitory, the children, students would be all together and speak Japanese and not learn the American way. So it would be better money spent if they spent it on the Japanese garden. So, but he had to be very careful because the city fathers over there don't like to be second
guessed. Huh?
Second guess.
Well, I think that's wise counsel, and that's what we try and encourage our students to do too, to mix in together, you know,
Yes,
the domestic and international students that enriches our whole cultural environment. Millie, we have a picture of you and Mal in Dr. Tajima's house in Shizuoka. And could you tell us a little something? You were at dinner there. Why were you there?
That wasn't Mal's first time over there.
Yeah.
I was with him with a group,
Mm-hmm.
but Dr. Tajima wanted to have us at his home. And of course, this was the first experience I had ever had in a home other than in the United States. So
Really?
it was very important to me, too.
So this was your first foreign trip?
Yes,
Wow, that's amazing.
yes.
Well, I mean, because you, I know you'd have gone to so many places, you know?
That started it all.
Yeah, right.
Yes. But I never was treated quite like that because, yes, we came into the room and we sat cross-legged on the floor around the circle. And I was admiring everything there. And I think eventually everything I admired became mine. That's what I found was so important. But their two boys and their daughter also came to United States then to stay with us for a while. And actually Mrs. Tajima came with her husband one time, and we spent quite a bit of time showing Omaha to both of them.
Well, that's
It
amazing.
was very nice.
I know that before the Sister City Association was established and the relationship between Omaha and Shizuoka was established, there was a society here in Omaha, the Ikebana Society. What Ikebana is flower arranging. Were you a part of helping put that together? Kim?
Yes.
I knew you were, but I thought I should ask anyhow.
Well, I came from Idaho originally, and It was out in the country, and I just went to Japanese school in the summer, and we just learned the basics of speak. Well, I didn't know how to speak because my parents spoke Japanese in the house, and they spoke English also, but I didn't know too much about culture. I mean, like ikebana, flower arranging. And when I came to Omaha, I thought, well, someday I'd like to learn how to do that art. And one day, there was an article in the World Herald that a lady whose husband was stationed in Japan was offering lessons of ikebana at the YMCA. So I thought, being Japanese, I better learn how to do that. So I took lessons from Astrid Gramer, and then she said to me one day, Kimi, you have a lot of friends, and you're in business, and you have people you can talk to, so let's you and I start a chapter of Ikebana International. And so that's how Ikebana got started here.
Well, and that helped to kind of create a foundation for the whole idea of the promotion of this,
Yes.
Shizuoka city in Japan with Omaha. So that's kind of a great thing. You know, between the two of you, Mal was once president of the Omaha Sister City Association, a member of the board of directors. Your husband Kaz and your son Richard were also members of the board of directors of the Omaha Sister City Association. So you've been associated all throughout in one way or another. So what are some of your favorite memories of this relationship? Maybe we'll start with you, Millie.
Well, an outstanding one was when they decided to build that gate in Lauritsen Gardens. And it was to be exactly like the one in Japan, but to size, measured down just so.
In March of 2005, construction began in Japan on the Sunpu Gate. The process attracted a lot of media attention in Shizuoka.
And the people over there measured it so carefully, the tiles on the roof, everything about it. I think 25 to 30 men were involved, and when that gate was actually made over there but brought over here,
An announcement ceremony was held, and the gate was placed on display for the citizens of the city. The Japanese craftsmen dismantled the Sunpu Gate and shipped it to Omaha for later assembly.
and established at Lauritsen Gardens, and they had the big celebration about it. I couldn't believe the enthusiasm and the effort and the exacting measurements and everything that went into that. It is remarkable. I wish every sister city had such a wonderful thing.
That is a great memory.
It is.
It's tremendous, and a great description of it. Thank you. Kimi, how about you?
Well, one of the things that stand out in my mind is that when we had a group of visitors, one of the first contingent, I think, that came over, we had the Exarban rodeo at that time, and Steve took a group, he went along with the group to the rodeo, and the clowns were acting up, and one of them sat on one of the ladies' laps, and that brought down the house.
That's amazing. That was a little different kind of cross-cultural exchange, right?
Yes, she was as surprised as she could be. And then another thing that I remember so well is that Mel and Millie Hansen were such terrific hosts when people would come. and Steve Sawtell, and Don House, and they just gave wonderful parties. And at one time, the decorator David had a house.
Oh, yeah.
Big,
I know
David
you're-
Rice, was
Rice,
it?
David
Uh-huh.
Rice, yeah,
Rice,
right,
David.
yeah, right, yeah.
Yes.
He had a 4th of July party at his house that was just so different, and the people really got an idea of how we celebrate the 4th of July here.
Well, I
And-
think we were really fortunate in Omaha to have a group, a community group, a team really, who were so committed to this relationship, and that's what made it such a successful relationship, and one now that we're able to celebrate its 50th anniversary. One of those individuals was the very first president of the Omaha Sister City Association, Max Miller. Maybe you guys might have some memories of his leadership that you'd like to recount for us. I don't know which one we go. Go first, Miller.
I don't know.
Oh.
You don't?
No, no.
Okay.
Well,
And Petey
I
does, so that's great.
I went over on my first trip to Japan was with the group that went over to make it tie-up official Sister City Association. We went with Mr. and Mrs. Miller, and Dick Walter, and Don Howe, and Mrs. Howe, and several other people. And when we arrived, they wanted to give us a big reception at their city auditorium. And just at that time, we were going over there in the evening. There was quite a commotion in the streets, and our hosts were hurrying us over to the auditorium, and I wondered, what is the rush and what is the commotion? Well, it just happened that the U.S. Enterprise, which was a nuclear-powered ship, had come to the port, and the people remembered the atomic bomb, and they were having a demonstration. And then when we got into this huge auditorium, they played the Star-Spangled Banner for us. And it just made us so homesick. I think everybody in our group had tears in their eyes. I mean, to realize that here we were in a different country, and home was such a great country. I don't know. That's the feeling I had. And I'll never forget that when they played the Star-Spangled Banner for us.
And I've always felt that whenever I've been fortunate to travel other places, being in there, and the more you get to know about those places and countries, the more you learn about your own country.
Yeah.
And it's kind
Appreciate.
of comparative education, which is the purest form of education. So Sister City Association relationships really have helped to make those so strong. And well, you know, sitting here with the two of you, and I've known you ever since I moved to Omaha, and I've been with you so many times on things Sister City related. It's kind of intimidating in a sense because of the wealth of experience and contributions that each of you and your husbands and your sons and daughters actually as well, all of your family members have contributed. And I think that for me it's appropriate that we recognize the contributions of your families to making this relationship such a key. It's the very first of our sister cities, and it is such a key to the success of the Omaha Sister City Association. So I thank you so much, each of you, for what you have done, and I thank you very, very much for being here with us as we tell others about how this all began and the important roles that you played in this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.